Welcome to the OnTarget HTML5 website YouTube channel. The website is dedicated to teaching web development technologies in HTML5, HTML, CSS, CSS3, PHP, MySQL, Flash, and the XML scripting language. We'll soon be adding a section on JavaScript, so I hope you visit us at www.ontargethtml5.com.
Welcome back to the HTML5 Essential Training Series. Understanding the HTML5 tag structure, part 2. In this tutorial, we're going to look at another couple of HTML5 tag examples by demonstrating the image tag and the anchor tag. For many years, HTML worked great just as it was, using text for sending pages over the internet. The text formatting that was incorporated into the available browsers, as few as they were, was working fine. Then web designers decided that they would like to incorporate graphics into their web pages, and thus was born the image tag. The image tag was created so that designers could use the tag to reference graphics that were stored on the web server. When the tag was called in the browser window, it would request that the image file be downloaded from the server and displayed in the browser windows. The image tag is different in several ways from the tags that we've already looked at. The image tag is one-sided, meaning that it does not have a closing tag, and the image tag has numerous attributes which can become part of the tag structure itself. So let's look at a couple of examples of using the image tag in our HTML documents. Alright, so let's go ahead and close out our presentation window and let's go back into our development environment. You'll notice we've got our XAMPP servers up and running. Both Apache and MySQL are running in the background. I'm going to go ahead and minimize that window. Let's go ahead and open up our browser window and open up our text editor. You'll notice I'm on chapter 6_1, which is our basic template for our text editor. We're understanding HTML tag structure part 2, and you'll notice that's also what's loaded into our browser window. We've got nothing in the body tags, so we're not currently seeing anything inside of our browser window. This would be a great time for you to pause the presentation if you need to type in the basic HTML5 template document, which is shown on the right hand side. Again, this is the same document that we used in the previous tutorial, the same basic document, minus the fact that we've just added part 2 for our title, so it shows up here on the tag structure. Alright, one thing I do want to point out, I am going to go back to my local host because I actually changed a little bit of the structure inside my chapter 6 directory. I've got my chapter 6 HTML template, plus I've added an image folder. In order to demonstrate the image tag, obviously I've got to have an image, so I've added an image folder into the root of my web server, and inside that folder I've actually added a PNG file called Good Job, which is the image that we're going to use for this demonstration. It is part of the exercise files. If you don't have access to the exercise files, or if you have not purchased the tutorial, go ahead and just download any image. You can use any image you want. We're going to do a couple of things with the image. So just get on the web, download an image, create yourself an image directory that you can use, stick the image in it, and then let's get started with our demonstration. I'm going to go ahead and load that chapter 6_1 HTML file, blank page. The first thing I want to do, let's go ahead and put in a p tag. You'll remember from the previous demonstration that a p tag is a paragraph tag inside of our web document. I'm going to just go ahead and save that change and refresh my browser window. It says here's an example of the image tag, and then I'm going to go ahead from the exercise folder. I'm going to grab my image tag. I'm going to put that in my text editor also, and you'll notice I've got an opening tag for image. Then I have an attribute called the source attribute, the src equals, and it goes images/goodjob.png. If you remember from the file structure I just talked about, here's the name of the folder, images, and inside that folder I've got a goodjob.png as the name of the actual file. Let me explain something to you. This path is relative from the position of this document. In other words, my document is chapter 6_01.html. So the path to that image is relative to this document. So I go directly into the images folder, and then from that folder go directly to the file itself. And you're going to see plenty of demonstrations of that as we work through these exercises. But go ahead, now would be a great time to pause if you need to copy the image tag into your browser window or into your text document window. I'm going to go ahead and save these changes And then I want to go and update my browser window. And you'll notice now that we've got the paragraph tag. Here's an example of an image tag with the image that we've loaded from inside that folder. So we're actually loading the image from the folder. It's being downloaded from our web server into our browser window. All right, so using the image tag, we've brought an image into our HTML document or our browser window. Let's go ahead and look at an example of using some attributes of that tag. I'm going to go ahead and pull out this image source. Let's go ahead and pull out this paragraph. Let's save the changes to my document. Go ahead and refresh our browser window so all of our text is gone. I'm going to go to the exercise files, example 3. I'm going to go ahead and load up our paragraph text and paste that into our document. It's just another example of an image tag using additional attributes of the tag itself. And I'm going to go ahead and load up the image tag itself. Again, we're using that same image, but this time I'm actually going to use a couple of the attributes of the image tag. I'm going to use the height and the width attribute. You notice I've made them 48 pixels, both height and width. And by the way, the source is also an attribute of the image tag because it allows us to go in and actually load that image from that directory on the web server. Let's go ahead and save those changes. Now would be a good time for you to go ahead and pause the video to type in these changes if you need to. I'm going to go ahead and refresh that browser window, and you'll notice now we've got our paragraph tag, but the additional attributes of the image tag allowed us to resize or to scale that image inside the attributes of the tag itself. That's still the exact same image that we saw in the previous example, and in fact, if I go in and bring in that original image tag, save the changes to the document, you're going to notice we have both the large and the small image inside of our document window. The exact same image from our folder. So if I go back and I look at that directory inside the images folder, we only have one image. We're actually doing the scaling using the height and width attributes of the image tag. And that's something that comes in very, very handy as we start doing our website design, as you're going to see as we move through these tutorials. So now let's go look at a different tag that I want to discuss, and that's the anchor tag in HTML. All right, so let's go back to our presentation. With HTML, we can also create hyperlinks from one page to another. These links are the whole reason that the web has become so popular. The ability to link multiple pages, both internal to the website and external links, have allowed the web to grow much quicker than anyone could have imagined 10 years ago. The tag for hyperlink is the A tag. The A tag is a two-sided tag in that it does require a closing tag. Most web developers would not even recognize the A tag without the attribute that specifies the file or location to jump to. The A tag is always used with the href attribute. So let's look at an example of using an A tag in our demonstration. All right, so let's go ahead and go back into our development environment. You'll notice I'm in our HTML server. I've got my browser window opened. My web server's up and running. I am actually sitting on chapter 6 _02.html. That's the page we're actually running on. Again, just our basic HTML5 blank template. That's where we're actually going to create this link. And I've also created another page using that same template link. I've just created a page1.html that has a title text. This is page 1 text. And I've changed the actual title itself just to give myself the new file. I'm going to load this up so you can see it. So I'm going to go back into that root directory, load this up, and this just tells me it's page 1 text. The reason I needed this additional page, this is the page that we're going to jump to from our chapter 6 _02.html file. And again, that's just our basic HTML5 template. You can go ahead and pause the screen if you need to type this in. Let me go back to the page 1 HTML, because you can actually pause the screen if you need to type that one in. And in the next demonstration, we're going to actually go ahead and in our chapter 6 _02.html file, we're going to actually create this A link that's going to jump from our chapter 6 page to that page 1.html. All right, so let's go ahead and demonstrate using that A tag inside of our development environment. The first thing I'm going to do, I've got my chapter 6 6_02.html file up and loaded in my text editor. It's also loaded in my browser window. When I refresh it, nothing is displayed because obviously we have nothing in our body text. The only thing that we're actually seeing is the title, which goes across this tab on the top of our browser window. So for my exercise files, I'm going to go ahead and bring in example number 5 and paste those into my text editor. And I'm bringing in a paragraph tag and our first A tag. And notice my paragraph, here's an example of using the tag to add a hyperlink to our web content or our web document. And I'm using my A tag, I'm opening up the tag itself, I'm using the href attribute, telling it I want to go to page1.html. I close the opening tag and then I put display page 1. This is what's actually going to be displayed in my browser window in blue text because that's the default format for most of our browsers. And then I'm going to close that A tag. So if I save this document and I refresh my browser window, you'll notice now we've got our paragraph text. Here's an example of using the A tag to add a hyperlink to our web document. And we've got this link that's displayed below that text. I want you to notice that the only thing that you see in the browser window is display page 1. That's the text that's put in between that opening tag and the closing tag of the anchor tag itself. So if I save everything and I click this display page 1, first thing I want you to notice, if you look at the bottom of your browser window, it's going to show you where that's going. It's actually telling you it's going to page1.html, and the only way it can get there is because page 1, I want to go back to this root directory of this, is in the same directory as our chapter 6_02.html file. That's the only reason we don't have any directory path to it. It's in the same folder. So when I click on this page 1, it actually brings up the page 1 HTML document. You'll notice now our tag for our title says page 1 HTML file right here. And the text we're seeing is the H3 text from this page 1 text. So we actually jumped from our chapter 6:02 HTML file to our page 1 file. And if you look at example 6 inside your exercise file, see, let's go ahead and put this into our page. And you can actually pause this page if you need to type this in if you don't have access to the exercise files. Let me get that out of the way. You'll notice I've added another paragraph. Here's an example of using the A tag to add a hyperlink back to the original document. And you'll notice we've used the exact same type of A tag, the href attribute. This time I'm saying I want you to go to chapter 6_02.html, and the text itself is going to read back to chapter 6. So if I save this file, I refresh my browser window, remembering that right now we're viewing the page1.html file. Now I have this new paragraph text and a new hyperlink that takes me back to the chapter 6 page. If I click on that link, now I'm back to page 6. And now I've got a link that takes me to the page 1 and a link that takes me back to chapter 6. So hyperlinks are very, very important in HTML. That's how we move around our website. That's how we move to other websites. And let's do one more example. I want to do an example of actually leaving the current site that we're at and going to an external link. So let's do that as our next demonstration. Okay, so for our last example of the A tag, first thing I want you to notice is I've created a new document, chapter 6_03.html. This is our same basic web template, HTML5 web template. So you can go ahead and pause the video if you need to type it. What I would do is just save over, so do a save as on your 02 and remove the text from inside of your body tag. And when we refresh that browser window now, because we've loaded the 03, we've got no text displayed inside the body. I'm going to go ahead to the exercise files, example number 7, and I'm going to go ahead and copy those and paste those into our body tag. And you'll notice now what we're doing is I've got a paragraph tag. Here's an example of using the A tag to jump to an external site. So now instead of jumping inside of our website, we're actually going to use the A tag to jump to an external site that's external to our website. And you'll notice that what I've done in the attribute of the A tag, I've actually typed the URL that will take me to the site we're going to visit, and the name of that site is inside my A tag. So when I save this document and load the chapter 6 _ 03, it tells me here's an example of using the A tag to jump to an external site, and you'll see the little Google link right below that. If I click the link, it's now going to leave my current site and go out to the Google website, because that was based on the link that we had located inside the attributes of that A tag. So the hyperlink tags are very important in website design. They are used not only to move around our site, but to move off the site into external sites. And as you'll see, as we keep progressing through these tutorials, they're probably, between the image tag and the hyperlink tag, they're the reason the web's become so popular. Because now it's not limited to just what we're seeing on a single page as they used it originally with universities. But now we can pretty much go anywhere on the World Wide Web, and pretty much anyone can have their own website. And obviously the popularity of the web is one of the reasons why I'm sure you're wanting to learn these development technologies. I mean, it's where everything is going. So in the next chapter, in the next tutorial, we're actually going to look at, we talked a little bit in the previous tutorial about inline elements and block level elements. We're going to actually investigate the difference between inline and block level and use CSS to demonstrate how easy it is to see the difference in your browser window. So I look forward to seeing you in that tutorial.
I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And again, check out our website, www.ontargethtml5.com, for a complete listing of all the tutorials that are available in the development environment. I look forward to your feedback, and thank you for visiting.